The teacher emitted a derisive laugh when a young black girl timidly asserted that her father was Chuck Norris. Just as the laughter began to rise, the door swung open, and in strode the man himself. Remain with us to discover what unfolds next. Be sure to like, subscribe, and activate the bell for more captivating stories. Ava Carter had recently arrived at Meadowbrook Elementary, having moved with her family to a tranquil suburb in Ohio just a few weeks prior. In Atlanta, she was well known, particularly due to her father's identity. In this quaint, tree-lined town, where everyone seemed too absorbed in their phones to aspire for more, she found herself merely as the new black girl in the back row. The individual adorned with braids, embellished with vibrant beads, today sporting a vivid red t-shirt featuring a striking image of Chuck Norris executing a roundhouse kick across the front. On that morning, Mrs. Harrison requested the class to share presentations about their parents' professions for Career Day. One by one, the students rose to share their thoughts. My father is an accountant. My mother works as a dental hygienist. My father operates the hardware store located down the road. Next, it was Ava Carter's turn. With a determined stride and a glimmer of pride in her eyes, Ava Carter rose, clutching her manila folder to her chest. Her voice resonated, bright and full of enthusiasm. My dad is an actor, she said with a radiant smile. And not merely any actor. Chuck Norris is his name. The room transformed. A moment of silence ensued. A rhythm. Then a ripple occurred. Initially through fleeting glances, followed by gentle whispers. The parents in the back shared confused glances. A group of children huddled together, sharing whispers and sly smiles. A brief, uncertain laugh escaped someone, only to be swiftly suppressed. The atmosphere in the room had shifted. Initially, Ava Carter appeared oblivious. She was overly immersed in the pride of the moment. She continued opening her folder, mentioning that he's currently filming a new movie in Hollywood. I have brought pictures from the set. This piece is from the previous month. He forwarded it to me while collaborating with the stunt team. As she was about to reveal the photo, Mrs. Harrison interjected, raising her palm with a smile that wavered between skepticism and a strained sense of patience. Ava Carter, she spoke with deliberation, this is not the moment for tales. Today, we are showcasing authentic career paths. I am, Ava Carter insisted, her smile wavering, yet her voice striving to remain firm. He is my father. Mrs. Harrison let out a sigh, her tone becoming noticeably colder. It seems that Chuck Norris holds a special place as your hero. He is indeed a remarkable man to look up to, without a doubt. However, let us consider this, Ava Carter. We should be careful not to conflate admiration with the truth. He is a well-known actor of Caucasian descent. No. Yet, you don't even share a last name. The murmurs in the room intensified, as though her words had granted them the freedom to ridicule. Laughter erupted in small, joyful bursts throughout the room. Someone from the middle row whispered, "Perhaps she isn't even aware of who her true father is." Another child chimed in with a snort, likely a troublemaker or a thief, and that's why she's fabricating stories. It seems that there is a tendency to generalize about certain groups, which can lead to misunderstandings. Ava Carter's face turned a deep shade of crimson. Ava Carter turned swiftly, her eyes brimming with tears. "That is not true," she exclaimed. "Chuck Norris is my father." "He is indeed. I assure you I'm being truthful." Her classmates laughed even more, the sound harsh and piercing. "So, where is he then?" one of them scoffed. "Confronting adversaries or evading financial responsibilities. I am being honest." Ava Carter let out a scream, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. "He is truly my father. Why does no one seem to believe me?" Mrs. Harrison's expression hardened, her voice cutting sharply through the atmosphere. "Ava Carter, that will do. Please take a seat immediately. This conduct is not acceptable." The room fell into a heavy silence once more, but it was not the sort that offered tranquility. Ava Carter stood at the center of it all, her fists tightly clenched, her heart racing in her chest, tears streaming down her face. In that instant, enveloped by skepticism, ridicule, and the piercing ache of embarrassment, she had never experienced such profound solitude. As Ava Carter returned to her seat, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, her heart racing under the burden of every sidelong glance and hushed giggle. The classroom seemed to have taken on a chill, as if the very walls had chosen to turn away from her. Unbeknownst to anyone, including Ava Carter, Principal Harris had discreetly organized a surprise guest to address the students at Career Day just a few weeks prior. That guest, by an unusual turn of events, had decided to show up today. Back to Ava Carter, who sat hunched at her desk, clutching her folder like a life preserver, completely oblivious to the fact that her entire day was about to take an unexpected twist. As Mrs. Harrison announced the name of the next student, the door opened with a gentle creak. In the doorway stood a rugged man, tall and commanding, dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and well-worn jeans, exuding an unmistakable presence that seemed to alter the very atmosphere around him. His beard was meticulously groomed, his boots resonated with a subtle assurance, and draped effortlessly over his shoulder was a leather duffel bag. As he stepped forward, Principal Harris walked in, radiating an infectious enthusiasm. "Apologies for the interruption, Mrs. Harrison," Principal Harris stated, his tone courteous yet resolute. "Our distinguished guest for Career Day arrived slightly ahead of schedule. Everyone, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Chuck Norris, a martial artist, actor, Air Force veteran, and motivational speaker." The classroom descended into a profound silence. Silence enveloped the scene, with astonished gazes and mouths agape. Mrs. Harrison's complexion lost its color, her expression twisted into a mix of disbelief and dread. Her gaze flicked between Chuck Norris and Ava Carter, the truth gradually revealing itself like a storm gathering on the horizon. Across the room, Ava Carter's lips curled into a slow, confident smile. Upon their eyes locking, Chuck sensed that something was amiss. He recognized that expression on Ava Carter's face, a blend of relief and intensity, the sort that emerged only when someone she trusted had been belittled. Rather than bombarding her with inquiries, he gave a serene nod and then turned to the classroom, wearing a relaxed smile that conveyed a sense of depth. "Hey there," he said, his voice smooth yet firm, slicing through the tension like a roundhouse kick through drywall. "My name is Chuck Norris. I arrived from Hollywood late last night to be here. I would have forcefully opened the plane door if necessary. I was determined not to miss Career Day with my daughter." Gasps echoed throughout the room. A handful of children actually rose to their feet. "Absolutely not," someone murmured. "Is that truly Chuck Norris?" Phones emerged, jaws dropped, and even the walls appeared to draw nearer. And in the midst of the shockwave stood Mrs. Harrison, immobilized as if someone had yanked the plug from her spine. Chuck turned his gaze toward Ava Carter. Her cheeks were flushed, yet her eyes now glowed with a deeper intensity, pride. He advanced cautiously, letting his duffel fall onto the table with a gratifying thump. "Before I delve into tales of movie stunts and martial arts, would you like to start with some questions? Does anyone want to hear about the experience of battling Bruce Lee or executing a dropkick through a window?" Hands sprang up like kernels in a hot pan. Chuck was on the verge of making a choice when a voice sliced through the turmoil, crisp and indifferent. "Excuse me, Mr. Norris," a boy in the third row exclaimed. "If you are her father, how is it that she is, black? Did you adopt her or discover her in a dumpster or something similar?" The room became frigid. Ava Carter stood still. Zoe tensed in her seat. Even the teachers appeared taken aback, their eyes darting between the boy and Chuck. Chuck slowly turned to the student, his expression steady, yet the atmosphere around him felt as if it were drawn taut, like a coiled spring. He approached the boy with a steady pace, each step resonating like a ticking clock. He halted just a few feet away, locked eyes with him, and spoke in a low, clear voice. "Son, I've shattered bricks, bones, and records, but you're only one sentence away from discovering what it feels like when I break the silence." The boy blinked, his face losing all color. Chuck allowed that to linger for a moment before continuing. "Pay attention, as I will only say this one time. No, I am not the biological father of Ava Carter. Her biological father was a firefighter. An excellent choice, my closest companion. He perished while bravely rushing back into a blazing building to rescue 2 children trapped on the upper floor. He did not emerge." The room was completely silent. Chuck's voice became a touch gentler, yet it resonated with greater significance than before. "Prior to his passing, he requested that I keep an eye on Ava Carter. I made a promise to do so. I brought her up. I showed her how to throw a punch, repair an engine, speak the truth, and always, without exception, define herself on her own terms. He glanced back at the boy, his voice calm yet tinged with an underlying intensity. To clarify, I heard you before. The comments you made quietly regarding black individuals and Ava Carter, that ends now. The boy shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Chuck stepped back, his gaze unwavering. You have a decision to consider. One can mature, gain knowledge, and show others that they are valued, or continue to speak freely until the world reveals its true size to you. He then addressed the rest of the class, his voice rising with renewed vigor. Are you curious about what defines a hero? It's more than merely an individual who shatters boards or claims titles. It's an individual who arrives, who embodies principles, who safeguards others even in challenging times. He motioned in Ava Carter's direction. She is more my daughter than any blood relation could ever demonstrate. If any of you possessed even a fraction of her determination, you would truly grasp what genuine strength embodies. Silence enveloped the room. Even Mrs. Harrison appeared as though she wished to vanish. Chuck stood tall, presenting a smile that retained a hint of determination. All right, who's prepared to master the art of kicking like a Norris? In an instant, the atmosphere transformed. Respect filled the room, not from fear, but from a sense of wonder, the kind achieved solely through honesty, bravery, and a voice that understood when to remain composed and when to take action. Before I begin, he stated, his voice steady yet brimming with intensity, does anyone have any questions? What can you share about martial arts, action films, or your experiences collaborating with Bruce Lee? The classroom was on the verge of chaos. Hands shot up into the air, children whispering excitedly to one another. A boy in the front row leaned toward his friend and whispered, I watched Walker, Texas Ranger, with my dad last night. Mrs. Harrison cleared her throat, attempting to regain control of the situation. What a surprise, Mr. Norris, she remarked, visibly shaken. We were unaware. Ava Carter was just sharing some insights about you for Career Day. Her words faltered, struggling to maintain coherence. Chuck nodded thoughtfully as the pieces began to align. Is that the case? He spoke with a calm demeanor, yet his words were razor-sharp. Could you clarify what you said? Mrs. Harrison froze, her eyes darting nervously as his presence anchored every gaze in the room. Is there anyone who would like to share what they have heard? A boy raised his hand with a touch of hesitation. The teacher claimed Ava Carter was fabricating the story, he murmured, asserting that there was no way her father could be Chuck Norris. Silence descended once more, heavy, uncomfortable, frigid. Chuck remained unblinking. He opened his bag and began to retrieve memorabilia. Film set photos, an old Air Force jacket, a faded martial arts belt, and a DVD box set featuring his face on the front. He said, laying them out, I suppose it's time for a little double feature. Action and education. Principal Wilson, he remarked, casting a glance toward the door. If possible, I would appreciate Ava Carter's assistance today. Principal Harris, now completely immersed in the moment, nodded swiftly, casting a keen, unmistakable glance at Mrs. Harrison. Ava Carter stood, her stance slightly unsteady, yet there was a noticeable change in her demeanor. The children nearby had ceased their giggles and whispers. They were filled with wonder. She approached her dad, her chin slightly elevated. Two students near the back attempted to whisper something, and without turning, Chuck remarked, Gentlemen, whispering in class is akin to whispering on a movie set. A single, misplaced word can unravel the entire scene. If you have something to express, share it, or remain silent. The boys fell silent immediately, their faces turning red. Chuck initiated a presentation on the screen, showcasing clips of him sparring with Bruce Lee, executing stunts, scenes from legendary films, and photographs from his actual service in the Air Force. Text. This, he remarked, indicating a grainy photograph, was captured during my service in South Korea. Before the films, before the recognition, I was merely a child discovering the art of combat and the value of service. He surveyed his surroundings. People shouldn't dictate what is too grand for your life. They do not determine your identity or your potential. The responsibility lies with you. My daughter understands that, even when she is the sole person in the room who possesses that knowledge. For the next 20 minutes, the father and daughter engaged in a collaborative presentation that intertwined action narratives, martial arts principles, and insights on perseverance and integrity. The room was filled with laughter once more. So did admiration. In the end, Chuck faced Mrs. Harrison. "Ma'am," he said, "I take it you advocate for teaching children the importance of verifying information before making assumptions." She nodded, rigid and ashen. "That's great," Chuck responded, "as skepticism is a sign of a healthy mindset. However, we recognize that there is a distinction between inquiring and presuming that someone is out of place. One paves the way to understanding. The alternative?" He gazed directly at her. "That goes in circles. Leaping to conclusions without evidence is one matter. Taking action without careful consideration? That represents an entirely different type of error." Principal Wilson cleared his throat, evidently displeased. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, his voice sharp and clear like a biting winter breeze, "I believe we should engage in a detailed discussion after class. A private meeting would be most suitable." He then turned to Chuck and Ava Carter and said, "Thank you both. I think everyone here gained something truly significant today. I'm referring to more than just martial arts or self-discipline. Some lessons resonate far beyond the pages of any textbook." The bell rang, yet no one stirred. The students stayed firmly in their seats, as though reality had not fully registered with them yet. As Chuck started to gather his belongings, a girl at the back, dressed in a pink hoodie and sporting two messy buns, lifted her hand. "Mr. Norris?" she inquired, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "I also want to learn karate. However, my uncle believes that girls like me aren't suited for it." Chuck approached and knelt beside her desk, speaking in a quiet yet authoritative tone. "What is your name, dear?" "Zoe." "Indeed, Zoe," he remarked with a composed, unwavering smile. "Your uncle may have a point regarding one aspect. It is challenging. However, we aren't intimidated by toughness, are we?" He halted, meeting her gaze. "Individuals like us are built for challenges." Chuck advanced, his presence demanding immediate focus. The gym fell silent. The children leaned closer. Even the educators maintained a more upright posture. I have participated in tournaments, served in the military, and appeared in numerous action films that I can hardly recall. Chuck started, his voice unwavering. "However, I want to share a lesson I've acquired through experience. Being true to oneself requires more bravery than resorting to violence." He allowed that to linger for a moment, then proceeded, his gaze moving around the room, settling on the girls in the crowd. "Some individuals may attempt to persuade you that, due to your gender, you should behave in a specific manner. Silence, please. Please be courteous. Remain in the kitchen. Wear a lovely smile. Devote yourself to your husband as if he is the focal point of your existence." He paused, his voice becoming as unyielding as steel. "I've got news for anyone who continues to hold that perspective. The most resilient individuals I have encountered in my life have been women. Warriors, combatants, mothers juggling 3 jobs, daughters rising to the occasion when others faltered. Women should not be confined to the kitchen. They have the right to be wherever they desire, within the confines of a dojo, at a movie location, within the halls of Congress, managing a business, or simply having the freedom to pursue what is important to them." He glanced at Ava Carter and offered a smile. "There is no need to decide between strength and kindness, or between intelligence and earning respect. You have the freedom to embrace every part of yourself. Refuse to accept a box from anyone who claims this is your place. If you are capable of executing a roundhouse kick, you possess the ability to construct a rocket. To lead a movement, one must be willing to raise their voice. Do not allow the world to diminish your aspirations to align with their sense of comfort." A handful of parents fought to hold back their tears. A boy at the back applauded. Next, another one. Then, the whole gym erupted into applause, the kind that resonates deep within and lingers in the mind. Zoe turned to Ava Carter, whispering, "That was the most amazing thing I've ever heard." Ava Carter smiled brightly. She felt truly acknowledged. She felt acknowledged. He then turned back to the class and added, "Ava Carter and I are launching a self-defense club right here at Meadowbrook. All are invited." Zoe's face brightened like a summer sunrise. As the students gradually collected their belongings, Mrs. Harrison remained motionless, her complexion pale, as though the weight of reality had finally struck her. As Ava Carter stood next to her father, a whirlwind of emotions enveloped her. Respite, confirmation, enduring pain. Yet there was also an unfamiliar sense of empowerment, as if she had just embraced her own strength. As the classroom emptied, Chuck faced Ava Carter. "I'm proud of you," he said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You spoke the truth when remaining silent would have been the simpler choice." Ava Carter embraced him warmly. "But how did you find out what occurred?" she inquired. Chuck offered her a knowing smile. "Having walked in your shoes, Liv, far more often than I would like to admit." His voice held the weight of battles fought, both on screen and off. "And I recognize that expression, the one that surfaces when the world conveys that you fall short. I notice it in the reflection each time someone attempts to confine me." Unbeknownst to either of them, this moment marked only the start of their journey. Meadowbrook was on the brink of discovering a difficult reality. To underestimate a Norris was more than a mere error. The miscalculation had a profound and enduring effect. In the days that followed, Chuck's visits ignited a buzz throughout every hallway in the school. Whispers spread. Boundaries were established. Some parents stood by Mrs. Harrison, describing the situation as a misunderstanding, while others expressed their outrage over Ava Carter's treatment. At the heart of the situation, Ava Carter continued to advance, undeterred by the whispers that trailed her like shadows. However, her story did not conclude with a moment of redemption. This was merely the start. As the evening unfolded and the sun sank low over the tranquil streets of Meadowbrook, Ava Carter perched next to her father on their front porch, her legs swinging playfully over the edge of the wooden steps. "Dad," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty, "a martial arts tournament is scheduled for the end of March. I desire to compete." Chuck looked down at her, a familiar calm smile spreading across his weathered face. "Are you truly committed to this?" She gave a nod. "I would like to give it a try, make a genuine effort." He gazed at her for a moment, then replied, "All right, let's do it. However, you will train with the intensity of a warrior." What Ava Carter didn't anticipate was Zoe, the girl who once scoffed at her shirts, coming up to her the following day and saying, "I heard you're signing up for the March tournament. I have always had a desire to participate in the team sparring division. Are you in need of a partner?" Ava Carter paused for a moment, then gave a slow nod. In an unexpected turn of events, the two unlikely companions decided to sign up together. Starting from that moment, Chuck conducted training sessions with them each afternoon. The old barn behind their house transformed into their dojo, the floor adorned with thick mats, punching bags gently swaying in the corners, and Chuck's voice resonating through the rafters with unwavering discipline. Day after day, the two girls arrived, battered yet resolute, mastering stances, strikes, breathing, and balance. Chuck never took it easy on them. However, his presence, firm, fair, and unwavering, propelled them through the sweat and exhaustion. As March arrived with brisk winds and budding flowers, so did something else. Confidence. The distance between Ava Carter and Zoe gradually diminished. Where there had once been uncomfortable pauses, now flowed moments of joy and laughter. On one especially challenging afternoon, they both fell onto the mat, struggling to catch their breath. Ava Carter glanced over and let out a groan. "I believe I misplaced my legs during round 3. Zoe erupted in laughter. "Send my regards to your legs." They departed following the warm-up. They reclined next to each other, bruises blossoming on their shins, their arms resting over their eyes, laughing like long-time companions. Chuck stood silently in the doorway, arms crossed, observing them with a subtle satisfaction in his gaze. The training was effective, yet something of greater significance had also begun to take hold. Beyond mere strength, beyond simple discipline. A connection. A bond created through determination, physical challenges, and common aspirations. Chuck, the man who once hushed a classroom with his mere presence, now stood with a smile, not due to their victories in fights, but because they were evolving into something far more significant. A group of individuals working together. The day of the tournament dawned, filled with an electric buzz of adrenaline and the unmistakable sound of sneakers gliding across polished gym floors. Folding chairs were arranged in rows along the perimeter of the arena, occupied by families and coaches who were vocally supporting their teams. Ava Carter and Zoe stood side by side in their matching uniforms, belts secured firmly, their expressions marked by a calm determination. Chuck, yearning to be right beside them, remained concealed in the crowd, cloaked in a hoodie and ball cap, perched high in the bleachers. His presence might have attracted excessive attention, and this day was not centered around him. The focus was on them. The initial rounds arrived swiftly and intensely. Ava Carter and Zoe moved as if they were extensions of a single heartbeat, executing flips, blocking, and striking in perfect harmony. However, in the course of one match, they encountered a duo of girls from a competing dojo. From the very beginning, there was an unsettling feeling. One of them cast a scornful glance at Ava Carter. She muttered quietly, "I didn't realize they allowed charity cases in." The other chuckled, "This is not Barbie's house, dear. You'll want to rely on your small aspirations of space to carry you away once we're finished with you." Ava Carter's jaw clenched, yet she remained silent. Chuck's voice resonated in her thoughts. "Allow your strength to resonate more profoundly than your frustration." Thus, she proceeded, they battled with all their strength. Step by step, they advanced, balancing power with cunning, elegance with intensity. As they executed the final synchronized strike that sent their opponents reeling, the crowd erupted in cheers. Ava Carter and Zoe bowed, their chins held high before turning and walking off the mat with measured steps. They were headed to the finals. The championship match commenced beneath the intense brightness of the overhead lights, with tension palpable in the atmosphere. Ava Carter faced an opponent who was ruthless, highly skilled, and evidently determined to secure victory by any means necessary. Then it occurred. An inexpensive, unlawful low kick executed while the referee was momentarily diverted. A sharp crack resonated as Ava Carter fell to the ground, crying out in pain while grasping her leg. Silence enveloped the gym as if a curtain had been drawn. Zoe knelt beside her. "Ava Carter, your leg. Stay still." Yet Ava Carter's gaze remained fixed on her adversary. Her voice was a soft murmur, yet brimming with intensity. "I refuse to go out looking like this." With great effort, Ava Carter gradually lifted herself, balancing on one leg, her injured foot just grazing the mat. The audience started to move restlessly. Murmurs evolved from whispers. She inhaled deeply. Then one more. In her thoughts, Chuck's voice resonated, clear and unwavering. "When you have nothing remaining, deliver the one move that will stay with them forever." And then it occurred. With a fierce primal yell, Ava Carter lunged forward, spinning on her good leg, lifting her body into the air, and executing the very move Chuck had drilled into her bones since the first day. The roundhouse kick. Quick, harsh, impeccable. Her heel connected with the side of her opponent's head, producing a crack that reverberated throughout the entire gym. The girl collapsed immediately. The crowd exploded with excitement, akin to a bomb detonating. Cheers, gasps, and screams of disbelief filled the air. Coaches sprang to their feet. Parents stifled their gasps. The referee hurried forward, raised his arms, and signaled, "Victory!" Zoe hurried to her, reaching Ava Carter just in time to prevent her from collapsing once more. They embraced tightly, laughter mingling with tears, engulfed by the cacophony, the anguish, the triumph. It was only upon the arrival of the medics that the crowd understood Ava Carter's leg was broken. Nevertheless, she declined the wheelchair. She desired to take a walk. With a slight limp and leaning on Zoe for support, she approached the podium. At the pinnacle, the two girls stood side by side, medals hanging from their necks, battered yet radiant. Ava Carter lifted her gold medal triumphantly, the lights reflecting off it brilliantly. She then raised her gaze toward the bleachers. There, partially concealed in the shadows, Chuck stood, with his baseball cap pulled low and his hoodie zipped up to his chin. Yet he was unable to conceal the smile. He applauded, beaming and exuberant, his eyes sparkling. Ava Carter locked eyes with him, raised her medal once more, and smiled brightly. This time, it transcended mere victory. It was a heritage. That night, the house was shrouded in dimness and silence, interrupted only by the occasional hiss of the wind caressing the windows. In the living room, Ava Carter reclined on the couch, her leg propped up on a pile of pillows, as Chuck knelt beside her with a roll of gauze and a tub of salve. Her tournament uniform had been exchanged for soft pajamas, yet the unwavering pride in her eyes remained intact. "All right, this is gonna sting," Chuck muttered, carefully pressing the cloth against her bruised skin. "Oh, Dad!" Ava Carter exclaimed, wriggling around. "You mentioned sting, not sear through my soul." Chuck let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head in amusement. "You're fortunate that only your leg is broken, and not your mouth." Then, more softly, with an affection he didn't bother to conceal, he added, "You little mule-headed maniac. What were you considering, proceeding with that fight in that manner?" Ava Carter smiled, despite the pain. "I gained knowledge from the finest." He looked up at her, his brow lifted. "Compliments won't prevent me from putting you in your place." "It's worth a try," she remarked with a casual shrug, followed by a gentle laugh. Chuck settled back on his heels, observing her for a moment, the creases around his eyes deepening. Not from anger, but something akin to awe. His voice lowered to a soft rumble. "You truly evoke memories of your father. The same intensity, the same unwavering determination reflected in your gaze. He was the toughest guy I ever knew. However, his heart—" Chuck averted his gaze for a moment, suppressing his feelings. "His heart was the source of all that strength, and I assure you, he'd be immensely proud of you, Liv. Truly proud." Ava Carter blinked, her smile transforming into a more tender, delicate expression. "Do you genuinely believe that?" "I know so," Chuck said, tapping her gently on the forehead. "You didn't merely win a match today. You revealed your true self to him." The room embraced a tranquil silence, cozy and abundant. Ava Carter reclined, her eyelids growing heavy as fatigue finally overtook her. "Good night, Dad," she whispered. Chuck pressed his lips gently to her forehead. "Good night, champion." After a while, as the house fell silent and Ava Carter's breathing settled into a steady rhythm of sleep, Chuck quietly exited through the back door. The night air felt refreshing, and the grass was cool underfoot. He stood solitary in the yard, his head raised towards the sky. The stars shone brightly, tiny silver dots sprinkled throughout the dark sky, resembling messages that only the heart could understand. He crossed his arms and let out a slow breath, then spoke in a low, confident tone, as if addressing someone standing close by. "You should have seen her," he said quietly. "You would have been left without words, resilient, courageous, and incredibly determined, just as you are. She possesses your passion, yet there's an additional quality she holds. She possesses a light that transforms those around her." The wind whispered softly among the trees, as though it were attuned to their secrets. Chuck's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "I trust you are paying attention. I trust you noticed her brilliance today." He lingered for a moment, seeking no response, only the solace of the stars overhead and the enduring presence of a love that had never truly departed. Inside the house, behind the soft glow of the porch light, Ava Carter slept, her gold medal resting on the nightstand as the world slowly began to grasp who she was becoming. What an incredible journey, wouldn't you agree? If you've reached this point, I appreciate it, as this narrative transcends the tale of a young girl and a prominent action star. It's centered on truth, on belonging, on the flame that resides within us, even when the world attempts to extinguish it. Ava Carter's story is impactful as it illustrates the ease with which we can judge others based on their appearances, race, or preconceived notions, and highlights the profound errors that can arise from such judgments. The anguish she experienced in that classroom, that sense of humiliation, is a reality that far too many children confront daily. What truly made the difference was the presence of someone who supported her, someone who had faith in her when no one else did. Chuck Norris, indeed the legend, was more than just a karate-chopping hero in this tale. He was a father, a mentor, a man who understood that true strength lies not in the force of your blows, but in the intensity with which you safeguard those you cherish. Chuck maintained a calm demeanor, yet his words conveyed a deep significance. He supported Ava Carter at a crucial moment, and that's a lesson we can all take to heart. This narrative brought to mind that bravery manifests in various ways: voicing your thoughts in difficult times, pursuing your aspirations despite discouragement, and maintaining your strength even in the face of adversity. Truly. And that last moment beneath the stars? Exquisite verse. It caught me off guard, I won't deny it. I would like to hear your thoughts now. Which aspect affected you the most? What insights did you gain from Ava Carter's journey? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I make sure to read them all. Let's continue this discussion. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who could use a bit of hope today. Until we meet again, remain resilient, be compassionate, and never allow anyone to dictate who you should be. A pilot with racist tendencies confronted Snoop Dogg in first class, but the subsequent events left everyone astonished. Secured this flight honestly and without any issues. Everything is in order, my friend. The captain adjusted his stance. The words struck with a jarring impact. Snoop blinked, briefly taken aback by their boldness. The cabin buzzed with an electric tension. The words struck with force, echoing through the cabin and creating a heavy silence in their wake. Snoop remained steadfast, his jaw clenched, his fists quivering at his sides. He declined to provide the man with the gratification of a response. He had been abandoned, forced to survive on his own in an unfamiliar territory. The sweltering heat pressed heavily upon him as he meandered for hours through the dense underbrush. Sweat drenched his clothes, and every muscle in his body throbbed from the earlier confrontation on the plain.